Let's continue our conversation on Stoicism, going over the Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. I think we're coming to the end of the book, and I always feel that Marcus was kind of feeling his own death approach. He talks a lot about death in his final writings. Section 31. What more do you want? To live on? Or is it to continue sensation and impulse? To wax and then to wane? To make use of your voice, your mind? What in all this strikes you as good cause for regret? But if every one of these objects is contemptible, go on then to the final aim, which is to follow reason and to follow God. To value these other things, to fret at their loss, which death will bring, militates against this aim. It's a common theme in Marcus Aurelius' writing in general, I think, death and the evanescence of life, of how you can die at any moment. But I've always found this an interesting section, interesting thought that he raises, right? Like, at the end of the day, if you try to be a Stoic, if you try to at least follow Stoicism, apply Stoic principles to your life, there are only a few things that matter. One of those things that matter is to follow reason. Emphasis on not your reason, right? Not you think it's a good thing to do and therefore you should do it. That's I think an oversimplification of Stoicism. The reason of the logos, the universe, the organized system that is the universe in the mind of the Stoics. And of course, the idea being that if your reason kind of coincides with the universe's reason, then you'll be happy because you're doing exactly what you should be doing. If something bad happens to you and you're able to more or less shake that off, think, well, that was bad, but now I must continue, then your reasoning is in line with the reasoning of the universe. Maybe I shouldn't say reasoning. Your reason is in line with the reason of the universe, and you will be okay. Because you're not bothered by what is happening to you. The sage is unperturbed. And that's what you model, right? When you try to be a Stoic. You try to sort of emulate the works of sages. In itself, by the way, I've always found that sentence very comforting. And I use it. I use it a lot when I feel things, when emotional things happen to me, when I'm angry or sad about something. The sage is unperturbed. It's an easy sentence to have at hand, and it doesn't mean you cannot feel anything. Because as I've said many times in all these videos, not feel anything, this is not human. But to not be perturbed by what happens to you, or at least to be as unperturbed as you can be based on what happens to you, that can make a huge difference in your life. That can make things so much easier. And I like the rhetorical questions that Marcus asks of himself. What more do you want? To live on? Or is it to continue sensation and impulse? To wax and then to wane, to make use of your voice, your mind? If you were to live on forever, what would that mean? How would you use your time? If you were to live on forever, but your life would still be plagued with tragedy because those around you die, pass away, suffer, fall ill, think about it. If you could have this special elixir that nobody can know about, it makes you an immortal, how would you use your life? And what would you do? And maybe equally important, what would you not do? What would you continue to do? And what would you change? If right now you could do that, you could live forever, what would you change? What would you keep the same? What kind of things in yourself would you like to get rid of? What kind of things in yourself would you like to exacerbate, make even stronger, more pronounced, more powerful, more explicit? Important question, I think. And the reality is we're not immortal. We're not immortal. Although, as the Dutch author Harry Mulisch said, the fact that everyone has died up to this point does not mean that I will also die. Let's see what happens. And then he died. Not immediately. Having said that, we're not immortal. But I think once in a while it's very good to ask yourself these questions. What would you do? What would you change? Because you have a life ahead of you. You don't know how long it'll last. For all you know, this is your last minute, and then something terrible happens and you die. Right? It could happen. But given that you do have some time, most likely, what would you change? What is it about you that you would like to see change? See differently? Do differently or feel differently? Remember one of the central tenets of Stoicism, and that is one that I keep coming back to in my own life. You can't control what happens to you. You can't. But you can control how you feel about what happens to you. You can control your thoughts, your mind, your cognition. You can control that. And it may take practice, but you can do that. And in the same way that you cannot change other people, for that is up to them, you can change yourself. You can make changes. Hashtag be the change you want to be. But it's true. If you keep doing what you're doing, then even if you were to live another 60 years or 70 years, maybe that life will not amount to much. Maybe it will, I don't know, because I don't know you. But I bet there are some things that maybe you don't like about yourself that you'd like to see change. Then change them. I'm not saying that that is easy. It's very hard. In many ways, it's most likely going to be the most difficult thing you will ever do in your life. But then you start to reap the rewards. And then you have changed. And then things get a little different. Because you have changed. And then you are, I think, following reason. The reason of the universe. And your own reason. Because then you are the person you would like to be. Not the person who you were told you should be. Not the person who you were made to be by others. Not the person who does what you think you should be doing based on what others expect from you. But the person that you had within you all along. A whole different person. Someone else. Could be someone completely different from what you are now. And every single minute you spend on that, on becoming a different person, on becoming a nicer version of yourself, a better version of yourself, an improved version of yourself, call it what you will. Every minute you spend on that is a minute very well spent. It is. It can make all the difference. And if you do that, to close the loop here on what Marcus Aurelius wrote, why fear death? Because you've lived the best life that you could live. You've done everything. Some errors will creep in. They always do. But you've done everything you could to be the very, very best version of yourself. And at the end of the day, that's what matters most. I hope this was useful. We are really coming to the end of the meditations. I will see you soon for more talk about Stoicism. Bye bye.